Gymnastics is a breathtaking blend of strength, grace, and fearless ambition. But behind the beauty lies real danger. In rare and tragic cases, the pursuit of perfection has ended in unimaginable loss. Today, we're looking at 5 of the most terrifying gymnastic deaths, stories that shocked the world and served as chilling reminders of the risks athletes take every time they perform. Elena Mukhina was nothing short of a phenomenon. A trailblazer in Soviet gymnastics, she dazzled audiences with her elegance, daring routines, and unmatched determination. At just 18, she stunned the world by winning the all-around gold at the 1978 World Championships, defeating legends like Nadia Comaneci and Nelly Kim. Her routines were revolutionary, featuring unprecedented elements like a full-twisting double-back somersault on the floor and a layout corboot flip on the bars. She wasn't just a gymnast, she was the future of the sport. But that future was cut short, and in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. In 1979, Elena suffered a leg fracture, which kept her out of competition and left her racing against time to prepare for the 1980 Moscow Olympics. With her home country hosting the Games, the pressure on her was immense. Coaches and officials pushed her to reclaim her elite status. Her own coach, Mikhail Klemenko, known for his intense, unrelenting methods, treated her, as she later described, like a living robot. Then came July 3, 1980. It was supposed to be a routine day at the gym. The Olympic Games were just 2 weeks away. Elena was practicing a skill she had long feared, the Thomas Salto, a high-risk tumbling move involving a backward somersault with a full twist in a tucked position. She had warned her coach repeatedly that she didn't feel ready, but no one listened. During a training pass, Elena under-rotated. She landed on her chin, snapping her neck. In that split second, her body was paralyzed from the neck down. The move she never wanted to attempt had ended her gymnastics career and completely transformed her life. The Soviet Union responded not with support or compassion, but with secrecy and misinformation. Officials downplayed the severity of her injury, changed their story multiple times, and blamed Elena herself. They claimed she attempted the move on her own, without coaching approval, to win her way back onto the Olympic team. Even the president of the International Gymnastics Federation repeated these lies, stating she was simply too old to compete again. She was 20. The reality was much darker. Elena had been forced to train despite injuries. Her warnings were ignored, and when tragedy struck, she was discarded and forgotten. Left to cope with her injury in near isolation, she relied solely on her grandmother for care. Friends rarely visited. Gymnastics, the very thing that once gave her life purpose, now haunted her. In rare interviews, Elena spoke openly about the intense pressure, the deception, and the system that broke her. She said that when she fell, her first thought wasn't fear, but relief. Thank God I won't be going to the Olympics. That's how crushing the environment had become. The gymnastics community, too, felt the aftershocks. Former teammate Nelly Kim later admitted the incident haunted her through the Moscow Olympics and ultimately pushed her into early retirement. The Thomas Salto, already infamous, became symbolic of the dangers of valuing medals over safety. Though the Soviet Gymnastics Federation tried to erase her, Elena's story could not be silenced. She was eventually awarded the Order of the Badge of Honor, and in 1983, IOC President Juan Antonio Samaranch presented her with the Silver Olympic Order. But it was too little, too late. On December 22, 2006, Elena Mukhina died from complications related to quadriplegia. Her tragic story sparked conversations around gymnast welfare, pushing the sport to reconsider the extreme physical demands placed on young athletes. But the deeper wounds, those of accountability, ethics, and athlete autonomy, remain part of her legacy. Elena Mukhina's life was a painful reminder of what happens when ambition overrides humanity. She remains a hero, not just for what she achieved, but for the hard truths her fall forced the world to face. Julissa Gomez was a rising star, graceful, strong, and full of promise. Born in San Antonio, Texas, To hardworking parents who once toiled as migrant farm workers, Julissa's journey was a story of determination and dreams. By just 14, she had earned her place among America's elite gymnasts, dazzling judges with her balance beam and uneven bars routines. She was widely seen as a strong contender for the 1988 Olympic Games. Those who watched her saw not just talent, but the grit of a future champion. May 5, 1988, was supposed to be just another competition day, a chance for Julissa to shine at the World Sports Fair in Tokyo. There was excitement in the air, and everything seemed routine, but behind the scenes, there had been concerns. Julissa had long struggled with one of the most technically demanding and dangerous vaults in gymnastics, the Yurchenko. This vault involves a round-off onto a springboard, followed by a back handspring onto the vaulting table. It's high risk, even for the best. Her form on the Yurchenko had been inconsistent. Coaches, teammates, and even her former trainer, Bela Karolyi, had expressed concern. A fellow gymnast, Chela Stack, later said, "You could tell it was not a safe vault for her to be doing. Someone should have stopped her." But Julissa's coach at the time, Al Fong, continued to push for its perfection. In elite gymnastics, high-difficulty maneuvers mean higher scores and Olympic dreams. During warm-ups for the vault final, Julissa sprinted toward the vault, but her foot slipped on the springboard. She missed the necessary lift, crashing head-first into the vaulting horse. The impact broke her neck instantly and left her paralyzed from the neck down. She was rushed to a Tokyo hospital, still conscious, able to communicate only by blinking. Her parents flew in, devastated but hopeful. Tragically, during her hospital stay, a separate mishap occurred. She became disconnected from her ventilator, which caused severe brain damage and placed her in a coma. She never woke up. After 3 years in a vegetative state, Julissa Gomez passed away in 1991 from complications related to her injuries. She was just 18. Her death was not in vain. Julissa's tragedy sparked outrage and reflection across the gymnastics world. In 1989, the International Gymnastics Federation allowed the use of padded U-shaped mats during vaults, previously permitted only in practice. By 2006, using a Yurchenko-style vault without this safety mat would result in an automatic zero. The vaulting horse itself was replaced with a wider, more stable table to reduce injuries. Julissa's story resonated deeply. It exposed the silent dangers of pushing athletes beyond their limits, especially when safety concerns were overlooked in pursuit of medals. Coach Al Fong later said he sat in his hotel room in Japan asking himself, "Is it worth risking someone's life for a life-risking skill?" The gymnastics community began prioritizing safety, rethinking how complex skills are taught, and when to intervene. Julissa's name is now tied not just to tragedy, but to reform. Her legacy is a reminder. No routine is worth a life. Christy Henrich was once a dazzling embodiment of American gymnastics. Small in stature but immense in talent, she was known as E.T., not for being alien, but for being extra tough. With explosive power and unwavering discipline, Henrich was a rising star in the late 1980s, captivating judges and fans alike with her precision and grace. At just 4 feet 10 inches and 93 pounds, she battled through injuries, outworked everyone in the gym, and came within a whisper, just 0.0188 points, of qualifying for the 1988 Olympic team. She was determined, ambitious, and adored. On the surface, July 26, 1994, seemed like any other day. But by that afternoon, Henrich, once the powerhouse of the U.S. national team, had died at just 22 years old. Her body ravaged by anorexia nervosa and bulimia. Her weight had plummeted below 60 pounds. Her organs had failed, and the sport that once celebrated her spirit was forced to confront a dark truth. Henrich's descent didn't begin with a fall from the beam or a crash during a vault. It began with a comment. At an international competition in 1988, a judge offhandedly told her she needed to lose weight. That moment lodged in Henrich's psyche like a splinter. That night, she pulled her coach Al Fong into her hotel room and asked, "Am I fat?" He said no, but the damage was done. From then on, she spiraled. She began extreme dieting, surviving on salads and apples, while binging and purging in secret. Laxatives were hidden in her suitcase lining. She'd run compulsively to burn calories. She refused to eat in front of her fiancé, Bo Moreno. At one point, doctors confined her to a wheelchair to keep her from exercising. Her gums bled, her kidneys failed. She tore out 4 lines, terrified that sugar water would cause weight gain. She was hospitalized more than 15 times. And yet, Henrik pushed through pain like few others. After breaking a vertebra in 1989, she returned in just 3 months to place second at the U.S. Championships. But while her physical injuries were visible, her internal ones remained hidden until it was too late. By the early 90s, her body was giving out. She couldn't finish routines. Her moods swung violently. She left competitions mid-performance. She retired, but the monster of anorexia stayed. Therapy was inconsistent. She clung to life but quietly confessed to her therapist that her battle was about shame, control, and never feeling enough. Henrik's death sent shockwaves through the gymnastics world. Kathy Rigby, an Olympian and herself a survivor of eating disorders, said, "You don't want to believe something like this can still happen, with all we know." Her story ignited a broader conversation about the suffocating aesthetic demands in gymnastics. It prompted calls for reform, for education about eating disorders, for mental health resources, and for a culture shift within the sport. The U.S. Gymnastics Federation began holding seminars for coaches, gymnasts, and parents. But many questioned, why wasn't it enough to save Christy? In death, Christy Henrik became more than a gymnast. She became a symbol, a warning, a martyr, and a voice for those too afraid to speak. Her bright red Toyota, license plate GMNAST, sat silent outside her family's home after her passing. But her legacy roared across the sport. No victory is worth a life. Samantha Serio was everything a gymnast aspires to be. A senior at Auburn University, she was a standout star both on the mat and in the classroom, an SEC Co-Scholar Athlete of the Year, and an aerospace engineering major with a job offer from Boeing already in hand. Known for her poise, discipline, and relentless work ethic, Serio had become one of collegiate gymnastics' brightest talents, commanding admiration for her elegant routines and fierce determination. Her final performance was meant to be a crowning moment. Instead, it became the most horrifying and heartbreaking moment of her career. April 5, 2019 started like any other meet day. The NCAA regional semifinals in Baton Rouge buzzed with excitement as gymnasts warmed up, coaches prepped routines, and fans filled the stands. Serio stepped onto the floor with the same calm focus she'd always brought to competition. She launched into her floor routine with powerful precision, pushing for a flawless performance that would help her team advance. But then, tragedy struck. Attempting a difficult tumbling pass, a double front flip, Serio slightly under-rotated. The miscalculation proved catastrophic. Upon landing, her legs gave way beneath her in a sickening collapse. She instantly crumpled to the mat, dislocating both knees and tearing multiple ligaments. The arena fell silent. Teammates and spectators watched in stunned horror as medical personnel rushed to her side. Her screams echoed through the stadium before she was carefully stabilized and taken away on a stretcher. The moment was captured on video, and within hours, it had gone viral. Shared across social media with millions of views, the footage of her injury ignited widespread reaction. But Serio herself was quick to condemn the voyeuristic frenzy, tweeting, "My pain is not your entertainment." She later said in an interview with Today, "You kind of want to watch it just to see what happens, but you don't think about the people that it could impact." Her words became a rallying cry for more empathy online and greater respect for athletes' dignity. Despite the gruesome injury and abrupt end to her athletic career, Serio remained inspiringly resilient. In an emotional Instagram post just days later, she announced her retirement from gymnastics. "After 18 years, I am hanging up my grips and leaving the chalk behind." But she made it clear she wouldn't be defined by a single moment. Her next goal? Walk down the aisle at her wedding. a dream she fiercely pursued while recovering from surgeries and intense physical therapy. The incident triggered deeper conversations about the dangers of high-difficulty routines in college gymnastics. Critics questioned the sport's reward systems, which often encourage athletes to perform risky maneuvers for higher scores. Advocates called for increased attention to athlete safety, mental health, and access to stronger medical support during and after competition. Coach Jeff Graba called it one of the toughest nights of my life, but the gymnastics community rallied around Cirio, praising her strength, character, and the grace with which she handled the devastating end to her career. Though she never competed again, her legacy extended far beyond the sport. In the wake of her injury, universities and training centers began reevaluating athlete wellness programs and safety protocols, though many argue there's still work to be done. For Samantha Cirio, however, gymnastics was just the beginning. She now builds rockets at Boeing, proving that sometimes, even after the worst fall, you can still soar. Melanie Coleman was the kind of athlete who left a lasting impression on the mat and in the hearts of everyone who knew her. A junior at Southern Connecticut State University, SCSU, Melanie had been a standout in the gymnastics world long before she reached college. A Milford, Connecticut native, she had already racked up a list of accolades: all-state honors, team captain in high school, MVP, and later All-America Scholar Athlete recognition by USA Gymnastics. Beyond the medals and titles, she was known for her humility, discipline, and kindness. Melanie wasn't just an exceptional gymnast. She was a role model, a nursing student, a youth coach, and a beloved teammate. Her coaches spoke of her work ethic. Her peers spoke of her spirit. Everyone who encountered her agreed she was something special. On November 8, 2019, Melanie entered a familiar space, New Era Gymnastics in Hamden, Connecticut. It was an off-campus facility where SCSU had trained for years. That day was supposed to be like any other, a standard training session with her team. Melanie was working on the uneven bars, a challenging but routine part of her practice. Though her main event was the balance beam, she had trained on the bars countless times. This wasn't a risky new move or a high-stakes competition, just another rep in the pursuit of excellence. Then, in an instant, everything changed. Melanie slipped while performing a maneuver on the uneven bars and fell. The specifics of the move remain largely unreported, but what's known is that she lost her grip mid-routine and suffered a severe spinal cord injury upon landing. Coaches, trained in emergency procedures, rushed to her side and began CPR while awaiting first responders. She was quickly transported to Yale New Haven Hospital, where doctors did everything they could, but the damage was irreversible. 2 days later, on November 10th, Melanie passed away. She was just 20 years old. The news sent shockwaves through the gymnastics community. Fatal accidents during training are extremely rare in the sport. The uneven bars, while visually captivating, are among the most technically demanding apparatuses, requiring immense precision, grip strength, and timing. Even with extensive safety measures in place, gymnastics remains a sport where the margin for error is incredibly slim. And for Melanie, that single slip proved fatal. Her coaches and teammates were left reeling. Head coach Mary Fredericks described Melanie as an incredibly hard worker and a sweet-spirited young woman. SCSU's athletic director, Jay Moran, called her loss devastating, and New Era's owner, who had coached Melanie for nearly a decade, described the tragedy as an unexpected accident with a tragic result. In the wake of her passing, tributes poured in. A GoFundMe page set up to support her grieving family quickly raised over $32,000. A meal train organized by friends and community members brought meals to her parents and 4 siblings. Online, Melanie's story touched thousands. People who had never met her were deeply moved by the tragedy and rallied to offer support. The message was clear. This loss was not just personal, it resonated nationally. Her death also ignited critical conversations around safety in gymnastics, particularly in training settings. Though SCSU confirmed that all protocols had been followed and the facility had a strong safety record. Many began calling for renewed focus on injury prevention. Advocates urged gymnastics organizations to review their emergency response readiness, enhance padding and spotting techniques, and ensure trained medical personnel were present at every practice. Beyond the procedural reforms, Melanie's story became a symbol of the intense physical and emotional demands placed on gymnasts. These athletes often walk a fine line between pushing their bodies to their limits and maintaining their health and safety. Melanie's accident underscored the need for a cultural shift, one that doesn't just celebrate wins, but also protects well-being. To honor her memory, Melanie's family established scholarships for student athletes, ensuring her passion for education and sport continues to inspire future generations. Her legacy is not defined by the accident that took her life, but by the countless lives she touched, and the changes sparked by her passing. In every conversation about gymnast safety, her name now carries weight, and in every gym where athletes take the bars, she is remembered.